Hello. Hi, everybody. Give you all a second just to hop in. This particular conversation is in a meeting format, so we can see you just as you can see us. So please join, and you're welcome to have your camera on or have your camera off. My only request is that you are muted. But other than that, we are happy to have you. Hello, Elizabeth. Our-
Hi.
My friend, movie star, and all that stuff that we'll get into in just a second.
Thank you. I didn't have my headphones on. Can you hear me better?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Okay.
So you are absolutely good. And we still have some time. Elizabeth, I was just sharing, as people are joining this particular conversation, we switched it up a little bit. It is in a meeting format, so we can see you just as you can see us. So you are welcome to have your camera on if you'd like, but if not a problem at all. We just ask that you mute yourselves. Or I'll have to mute you. I have a little bit of power. I can mute people. You can tell I'm the only, not the only child, but the youngest child. We had a station yesterday. Our colleague and friend Allie, our director of family programming, broke down all the family roles and the characteristics and birth order. And I was like, yep, that's me. The youngest. That would be me. And as always, the chat is open. So if there are questions, comments, feedback, we love to hear from you. So please don't hesitate to utilize the chat feature to ask us questions. I hope that you all are enjoying the summit so far. Elizabeth, this is day 4. This is the final day. So we've been in
Okay.
since Tuesday, lots of information, lots of content. So we are, coming down that final stretch, our conversation, and then we have one more CE presentation, and that will wrap our summit for 2025, which sounds crazy.
I know. This year ago.
I see a few of my colleagues and friends. Hi, Marlo. Hi, Jennifer. Don't feel compelled, guys, to come off mute or anything. I'm just shouting you out. Hello, hello. Well, this is a great group. Everybody's coming in and they're already on mute. Usually people come in and you hear all the background like, what? What did you say? And then but they're just very quiet joining this session. I can appreciate it. Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. For those of you that are just joining, this is a bit of a meeting format. We've typically been in webinar mode, but for this conversation, we did switch it up so we can actually see you. Just as you can see us, you are welcome to be on camera. And if you do not want to be on camera, that is fine too. We just ask that you mute yourselves so that way we can maintain the sound quality. The chat is open for sure. So please feel free to utilize the chat. Again, I can see you, you can see me, and you're welcome to be on camera. If not a problem. We're just happy that you are joining us. This is a conversation that I am very excited to have with Elizabeth. She is a very, very unique lady. So I think this will be fun. So without further ado, we will go ahead and get started. Again, my name is Jamie Singletary, and welcome to day 4 of the Within Health Summit. As I mentioned, this is a meeting mode conversation. So we can see you just as you can see us. Please make sure that you are muted just for the recording quality. The chat is open, so we do welcome your comments, your questions in the chat, especially, for Elizabeth or myself, and we will be sure to answer them if time allows. So I will start with a brief introduction of my colleague and friend here. This is Elizabeth Ayiku. She is a food justice organizer and the founder of Me Little Me Foundation, based in Los Angeles. She works to dismantle the systemic barriers that affect mental health and well-being, emphasizing the importance of meeting basic needs first. She founded the Me Little Me Foundation in response to her own lived experience with food insecurity, racial inequity, and a deep understanding of the gaps in support for marginalized communities. Her personal journey fuels her unwavering commitment to justice, equity, and community care. So welcome, Elizabeth, my friend and colleague. It is I'm just so happy to have you join the summit. This year, I'll just give a little background. Elizabeth and I were introduced a few years ago. I think it's been about almost 3 years now. And we just immediately clicked when I found out all of the amazing work that Elizabeth was doing in the community and in the field. It was a no-brainer that myself, from my personal views and from a professional standpoint, that we would want to be affiliated with Elizabeth. So I will just share that I had the opportunity to, and we'll get into this, to watch Elizabeth's film. And this is the first time that I've ever been able to watch a film and have a relationship with the film director, writer, producer, all of that good stuff. And I have so many questions, and for you all to be able to watch the film. We will definitely get into how you can view the film, but I literally watched the film and I'm like texting Elizabeth, like, oh my goodness, what happened? What was going on? Just because I was so proud. And this is such a necessary topic that we need to shed some light on. And as I mentioned, you're doing great work. So get right into the conversation. And I just want to start with, can you share a bit about your personal journey and what inspired you to create the Me Little Me Foundation?
Absolutely. So like you said, I made a film based on my own experience recovering from an eating disorder. And that came out of just wanting what I felt like was more accurate representation, especially when it came to people who looked like me, who were in my position, going to IOP rather than residential, which I don't think IOP, I haven't seen IOP ever portrayed in a film. So even though that's what most of the people who I know um, are able to attend. So I was like, look, I'm just sick of waiting for, for Hollywood, for for whoever to make it. So I was like, okay, I guess it's gonna be me. I have to do this. And it was just like something I had to do. So yeah, the film that I made, it's just about a Black woman working full time, while also going to IOP and just really just grinding and just like really trying to do both. And it's this big secret until it kind of isn't. And yeah, it was just my reality. IOP really was a second job. I had a full time job, then I had to rush to a second job. Um, and I was exhausted and um, just really had to try. It was one of those things where I didn't realize how hard it was until honestly until after I started watching the film. When I made the film, I dissociated a lot. I was like, I'm just gonna get the story done. I'm gonna put it out there. But when I watched it, I was just like, whoa, like if I just had like I don't know, a little hand to help, if I had my basic necessities met, I wouldn't have had to just like participate in just so many, I don't know, the grind culture. If having your my basic necessities met were, I guess, part of the treatment, I was just like, oh wow, that could have made a world of difference. So that's when it just kind of hit me. Like um, I wanted to put something together that I wish I had at that time, and that's how I came up with Me Little Me Foundation and our first program, the virtual food pantry.
A virtual food pantry. We'll get into that, but I
Yes.
absolutely love that. And I know that one of the conversations that you and I had very early on, we were talking about food pantries, and you really just shed some light where I was naive in a sense, and you ha really pulled back some of the layers on when people donate to food pantries, right? The tendency to give things that you don't need or that are old or that like you're just kind of doing like a cleanse going through your pantry saying okay like what can I get rid of, okay, I'll give this to the food pantry. And I think like I said, that was just a whole different lens. I never really thought of that, but I know that is something that people do. I'm even guilty of that at some point. Just sometimes if there's a canned food drive, I'll just kind of go through and say, oh, okay, we can donate this. So just really creating a virtual food pantry is very significant, I think, in something that I've not seen done before as it pertains to being inclusive and looking into the marginalized communities and receiving food that is very much diverse, right? We want to be able to provide options, especially in
Mhm.
this space. So again, that virtual food pantry is just a genius idea. How did your own experiences with food insecurity shape the vision for the work you're doing today? And maybe for some of us that are unfamiliar with the term food insecurity, maybe you'll break that down a little bit.
Oh, yeah, just I mean, literally um not knowing if you'll have a meal the next week, if you'll have money for groceries consistently. Like it's one of those things that I feel like I've always had in my life, just being, I grew up poor, and then in my adult life, I decided to be a an artist, so I was always struggling. So yeah, I've just kind of dealt with food insecurity my whole life, just not being able to just shop without looking at my bank account. And it's one of those things where, because I've been through it and because of what you were just talking about, like pantries in general will just give out items with no regard for whether a person can make a meal out of it. They'll just be like, well, this is what you get. So I was just like, there has to be something different. And also, there's no, like, cultural needs aren't taken into account. You'll just get um, some white bread and some, there was never anything that I recognized from growing up. I have a Caribbean mother, West African father. So, I grew up with foods from those cultures that were comforting. And sometimes that's really all I wanted, was just, something comforting from childhood. But going to a pantry, you'll just they really only have this really white, I don't know how else to say it, just really white foods. And like, that's just what you get. And so, I don't know, I just wanted something that, even though, yes, it's free, I felt like there needed to be a something created that was rooted in dignity and choice, and um, gave us the option to just, like, be in charge of how we're nourishing ourselves. So, that's kind of what shaped the way I look at all the work I do. I wanted it to be based in dignity.
I love that word, being based in dignity, because I think so often, to your point, we lean into you get what you get, and you don't pitch a fit, right? That was something that my son was taught very
Oh.
early on. They were like, hey, you get what you get and you don't pitch a fit. But I love bringing dignity back into this very vulnerable, complicated space, because
Yeah.
we talk about the shame that's associated with eating disorders. We talk about the isolation, but we don't talk about the dignity and still being kind, I think, enough.
Yeah.
So I really can appreciate you wanting to highlight that even though someone may be in distress, it doesn't mean that they are not still, kind of needing that dignity or needing that compassion, or to be treated, with just a certain level of respect.
Hmm. Absolutely.
And how does your work in the food justice space connect to eating disorder recovery?
Wow. So, and I think it took me a while to really connect the two, but and now it seems so obvious. But however, well, like, I've been out of IOP for ages now, like 15 years, I feel like. But like, even in all this time, my recovery has always been tied to how it's always been tied to whether or not I could afford food. You know what I'm saying? Like, so how well I was doing in my recovery was always directly correlated to like how, um, yeah, how I was doing in terms of food insecurity. So, um, I feel like the reality is it's kind of impossible to heal your relationship with food when you're worried if you can afford groceries. And it just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, oh my gosh, like, why isn't that the conversation? Why isn't, okay, let's make sure your basic necessities are met before we even attempt to try to heal you, before you even attempt to, you know, um, to go through this process. So, yeah, I just, I, I, I think the conversation should be, I just think I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time explaining
No,
it. I'm probably not
take
making
your
sense.
time. Take your time. I'm getting
Okay.
business. Take your time.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's just the difference. It's the difference between just like barely surviving and actually being able to heal. I think um um food insecurity, yeah, whether you're food insecure and trying to recover, and whether there's a system in place. So yeah, I think they go hand in hand, like recovering from an eating disorder and having, and
Those
being food secure.
That's for sure. Did you find, Elizabeth, that once you began to talk about food insecurity and just sometimes not being able to afford to have certain foods, did you find that there were more people than not that could relate to what you were dealing with? I'm sure.
Absolutely. People came out of the woodwork, like, so like the majority, so many. I mean, the last time I checked, it was like 65% of 60 something, 62% of the folks we serve with our virtual food pantry are folks recovering from eating disorders or actively are trying to recover. And I know a lot of that has to do with, my audience from the film and whatnot, but they were just like, oh my gosh, mind blown. Like, thank you so much for creating this. Like, yeah, I'm currently trying to heal my relationship with food, but going to the pantries, they like they don't have what I'm there's a whole bigger conversation with treatment models where they're just like, intuitive eating, eat what you want, eat what, eat eat what your heart desires. But if you can't afford that, I feel like it doesn't really relate to us. So yeah, a lot of people were just writing me like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much for thinking about this." Like people in recovery needing access to groceries because that's just not even talked about. They'll just be like, "We'll just buy what you can afford and make something out of that." But like I said, sometimes you just want something comforting,
Absolutely.
something, from your culture, from your childhood. So
Absolutely. And I think, not to get too much in the therapy lane, but I think when we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right, those physiological needs have to be met first, right?
absolutely.
We have to have food, shelter, safety before we can do any work. And so I think to not mention, it would be almost disappointing for us not to acknowledge that before we can do some of these practices and go into things with these different theoretical approaches, we at least have to make sure that the basics are covered. So, that makes perfect sense how they run hand in hand. We had a session earlier this week with authors that were writing books and had written books kind of based on some lived experiences. And we talked about storytelling. And so I have a question, for you. Our next question is, what does storytelling play in helping people understand why initiatives like your virtual food pantry are so essential?
Oh, I storytelling's always just been my go-to. I'm in terms of, especially like just filmmaking. I always feel like I can show better than I can ever tell. Like, as you can see, I'm struggling to like, my brain knows what I want to say, but I'm just like, how do I get them to understand what I'm thinking? Put it on screen, make it a film. I can show you so much better. So I wanted to show rather than tell. So like we were talking about, you see this Black woman just trying so hard, to just like participate in society and, work and survive while also trying to go to treatment, um, I feel like I could tell people all day long, like this was my reality, but until they actually see it and it becomes real, it's just some words. So I think I will always use filmmaking. I'll always use writing um, to help people understand, and that's why it's so important to me.
And in the film, I was rooting for you, by the way.
Thank you.
You know, I'm the type of person that I do interactive with the TV, even if it's just me.
Oh
And
yeah.
on television, I'm having a whole conversation with the character, and I was rooting for you,
Oh,
Elizabeth, or I was rooting for Maya. Maya is
Maya.
the character in the book, and I was really rooting, and there were so many things that I could relate to, just trying to balance it all out, just trying to maintain. It was almost as if you were living a double life, and I feel like a lot of our clients are doing that. They're trying to
Oh.
maintain one aspect of their identity, and then there's this other aspect of their identity that they are trying their best not to collide, right?
Oh yeah.
I felt your struggle, and just being in the space where you're trying to do two things at once it's
Mhm.
exhausting. It's very exhausting. So I feel like using the form of storytelling and being vulnerable enough to put yourself not only out there but on a screen really gives an opportunity for more people to connect and relate than not. So again, kudos to you.
Thank
Thinking
you.
about your virtual, no, you're welcome. Thinking about your virtual food pantry on a practical level, how does that operate? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So it right now it opens quarterly. We folks can apply online. So on our website, there's a link to the application that opens every quarter. And so once someone is approved, they literally receive a second form where they make a list of grocery items up to the approved amount. And we just order their groceries online from a local grocery store that offers online ordering and delivery. And the groceries are delivered from the store directly to them. And that's it. So there's no need, they don't need to even go somewhere like to pick them up. So it eliminates lack of transportation, zip code restrictions when it comes to pantries. So a lot of folks are also who've relied on us or have disabilities, physical disabilities. So they're like, oh my goodness, this has helped more than you know. So that's something that we wanted to keep in mind.
I love that. What do you think traditional systems, including government programs, nonprofits, and even healthcare, so often fail people who look like us or live at our intersections?
Yeah, I feel like there's no, I'm trying to find I think about this question, and there's no other way to say it than like I don't think those systems were made for us in mind. Like I just in fact, there are so many there's so much gatekeeping in government programs and just strict eligibility rules that like disqualify people like us. And I almost think that's the point. I'm sorry, but I feel like um, it'll be like, oh, you make more than $100 a month, okay, you don't qualify. Like just preposterous. And I'm exaggerating a little bit, but not really that much. So it's like they, it's really meant to not. Oof, they use this a lot in nonprofit. Like it's meant for it's you're we're about self-sustainability. We're about self-sustaining, and like so it's not to encourage you to keep using our service, and it's gross and I really feel that a lot of nonprofits mimic a lot of government programs in the way they create programs.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, there's a lot of people who I feel like are stripped of their dignity because they had to go through such rigorous gatekeeping and just like systems and can't get direct aid. Use you have to just get what you're given. So yeah, I don't think these systems are made to help. I think they're made to deter you from being poor. um, and I think I honestly think that is what these government programs are about. And also so many nonprofits, um, because they get their funding from, government grants and whatever, they just model this. And it's just become accepted for some reason, that you can't get direct assistance, you can't get, choose. So yeah, I think that's where it's all currently failing.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. Nicole in the chat said that she agrees with you. And I think, we have to be open, to acknowledge and validate where people are coming from. And we're definitely living in a day and time where things are changing and people are emotionally drained, people are emotionally
Mhm.
exhausted, people are afraid. Sometimes we're looking at how prices are going up and how things are ever changing around us. And we have to lend space. I do believe that we need to create a space where these things can at least be talked about and validated and people can be heard because it definitely is something that is happening. And because your work is so important, can you think of a story or, someone either anonymously or someone that you worked with that has given you permission to share that illustrates the impact that your foundation has had on their life?
Oh yeah. Uh the mother in New York. She was one of the first. She was one of our first pantry recipients, and she just sent me this long email, um, just saying she lives in an area where her pantry rarely has anything fresh. So she tries to prioritize meat in the meals she makes, but it's everything is always spoiled. And yeah, they don't have anything fresh at her pantry. And there's another pantry that she can get to, but she's zip code restricted. So she's not allowed to, you have to show your ID. She's not allowed to shop from there because it's in the better neighborhood. Oof. So um I don't that one really stuck with me. She was like, I'm not allowed to go to the nicer pantry. So this has been just like a godsend. She just let me know about all the meals she was gonna make with all the protein she bought. I know, sent me photos. Like I was just like, oh, it was just I was like, okay, I'm on the right track. Like this is because I don't know, I thought people would be confused about why I wanted to do it this way or not understand, but she was just like, "Oh my goodness, like this has changed everything." And so it was very encouraging and validating, and just it that's the kind of thing that makes me keep want to keep going because I'm like,
That's your
okay,
why. Like those are those moments and those stories and that feedback when you're having one of those days where you're questioning yourself, why am I
yes,
doing that?
What-
Those are the moments that make it all make sense, right?
it all
It all
absolutely.
makes sense. What do you wish people, including clinicians who have never had to worry about money for food, understood about this work? I think that's important to bring them in because there are some people that cannot relate to the struggle. And
Yeah.
we
Oh
don't want
yeah.
we don't want to punish them, for not being able to relate, but we do want people to understand that not everybody is going to come in with what you think would be just the basics or the bare minimum. It just doesn't happen like that all the time.
Right. No, it's yeah, I guess I think what I most want folks to understand is I guess food insecurity. It's not about personal failure or like bad choices, because that's for whatever reason, like that's what's been
That's what's been portrayed. Like that's the stigma, that's the stereotype, that's
that's the
everything that we're
stereotype.
working tirelessly to eradicate, I think, and to just continue to show that eating disorders and forms of disordered eating show up in humans. It
Exactly.
does not have to be a certain demographic. It can
Right.
just be a human thing.
Exactly. And it's just yeah, and I think a lot of the conditions that create eating disorders, food insecurity, just lack of support. It's the society we live in. The it's lack of healthcare. It's lack of support put into historically marginalized neighborhoods. So like redlining, there's so many layers to why these things exist. So I just feel like I wish people would just look at things with a larger lens, I guess.
I love that.
Yeah, that's what I want. Even clinicians to know because I've run into some.
Especially clinicians. I feel like
Ye
it, especially clinicians, as a clinician, myself, I have had the blessing, I'll call it, of working and living in a place where it's very diverse. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, so I've worked with a variety of demographics, and I am able to go into places and see people that look like me. However,
mhm.
when I go into predominantly eating disorder, environments, there aren't very many people, that look like me, but I am seeing where that is changing, and I'm seeing more inclusivity, and I'm seeing the representation. And, I don't mean to, kind of toot within's horn, but beep, beep. We are definitely one of the programs that have put some very strong initiatives into being collaborative, into being inclusive, from the moment that we engage with a potential family or client. We're asking those questions. How does culture impact your relationship with food? How has it just impact your day to day? And creating some safe spaces where these clients who belong to these communities have a space where they can go and see people that look like them and that identify with these communities. Because I do believe, to your point, that is a big piece of the healing process.
Oh my gosh. Like, yeah, I mean, and you said it. I wish Within was around when I was in treatment. Like, well, we could talk more offline, but there was just like I was in treatment in 2009. Um, and yeah, cultural needs were just not thought of. Yeah, it wasn't even a conversation. So, um, yeah, it's and even having remote IOP, like there's just unheard of. I was gonna say, if oof, man, if Within was around, like back then, it's like so much could have been different. So I guess that's why I know, like I was drawn to you guys and just like um because it's you have no idea how bad it was out there, and a lot of them still are, especially in LA. They're just like, no, they're like, oh, you live in Long Beach, oh, it doesn't matter, you have to drive out to Beverly Hills to our to oh, what's up, but my car, I don't have that much gas. They're like, you got to find a way. It's I'm telling you,
Make
still
it
it
harder than it has to be, right?
Oh, yeah.
Make it
Oh,
so much harder than it has to be. And look, I can talk to you forever. We're getting
I
close
know.
to time, but I do want to say, it's important for me, and I think important for the audience. What are some ways that people can get involved in supporting Me Little Me? Where can they find you? Where can they say, I love this? How can I support this young woman in her cause?
Yeah, so MeLittleMeFoundation.org. You can visit our website. Let me hold on. I thought let me put it in the chat. Sorry. But yeah, MeLittleMeFoundation.org. That's where you can learn about the virtual food pantry. I also run a racial trauma virtual support group with the foundation, and you can become a donor. You can become a monthly recurring donor. You can become a partner if you have a business. Within is one of our partners. But yeah, we're literally just we use like a community care mutual aid model. We don't have any big government grants because they're very about like, oh, you can't just give them direct support. You need to set up a pantry, like it they yeah. So I want to stick to this model, so I'm always letting people know we always need monthly um, recurring donors because it helps us plan. It helps keeps us sustainable. So you can go to MeLittleMeFoundation.org to learn to learn about us there, and MeLittleMeFilm.com is where you can learn about my film. And there's links right on the homepage to where you can watch it. It's available for rent and sale on Amazon and Apple.com, and it's also on cable. It's in some places. So yeah, you can go to those sites and let me put them in the chat right
Yes,
now.
in the chat, and I want to read some of the feedback you're getting in the chat.
Oh,
Elizabeth,
sure.
Nicole, you are very welcome. We are happy to talk about this. And Cassia, I hope
Oh,
I'm pronouncing your name correctly, says that she's in New York City as well, and they're extremely strict with zip code areas. Sometimes you leave with one item after spending hours in line. Very
oh,
frustrating. fortunate. Mental health struggles are not a personal choice or reflection of one's character. I love that this conversation is breaking stigma, especially on World Mental Health Day. That's
Oh.
right. Thank you. Elizabeth says, I applaud you, Elizabeth. You guys have the same name for your courage, work, and for you using your voice. I am an RD and am proud to know you would love to see your movie. P.S. Your name is beautiful, just like you are.
Oh,
Love
thank
that. Raquel said food insecurity is something. Let me see just a second. My chat is going crazy.
you. Okay.
Second here. Food insecurity is something we'll constantly brainstorming and trying our best to help our clients around. It's hard enough to go through ED treatment and even more difficult for all of those who don't have access to enough food for meal plan by end of the month. I'm thrilled to learn of your foundation and virtual food bank.
Thank
Thank you for such a beautiful conversation, Elizabeth and Jamie. You both expressed everything so perfectly, and I truly appreciate the clarity and insight you brought to this. Thank you.
you all.
From Patrice, something such meaningful work. It has been wonderful to hear your story and a glimpse of what those you serve experience. Thank you for sharing. Just a lot of love. And thank you all for joining. And again, Elizabeth has put her information in the chat, MeLittleMeFoundation.org. It is a beautiful cause ran by a beautiful person. And if you are looking for ways to contribute and just share and how to be more inclusive with what you do, or just try something new and step outside of the box and do something different, this is definitely something that I would encourage you to participate in. Elizabeth, my friend, my colleague, my movie star, appreciate
Oh,
you. There are people that are donating now.
oh, thank you.
So much love, and thank you for putting up with me and getting up and just doing all of this. I'm just happy that we were able to share space and share the stage this afternoon. So thank you. And to the
Thank
rest of
you.
the attendees at the conference, we will break here and we will reconvene at 1:30 for our final session of the summit. You will hear from our wonderful co-founder, Dr. Wendy Oliver Pyatt, and our amazing therapist, Brittany Ashmore, as they delve into neurodivergence and eating disorder. So we will do that at 1:30. Elizabeth, thank you so much. And if
Thank you.
you do a part two, I'd love
Okay.
I would love to read for, one of those. Just throwing that out there. Just
Okay.
in case you need someone as an extra, I'm happy to walk by. I'm happy to, whatever you need. Just think of me, right?
Sounds good. I will.
Do a casting call. I'd love a reason to get out there to LA and get in front of the camera. But with that being said, we'll go ahead and close, and I will see you all at 1:30. Thank you so much. Me, Little Me Foundation.org. Bye, guys.
Bye.